Let's get one thing straight. Trust and respect are gifts, and they're not the kind you hand out just because someone shows up in your life with a smile and a good story. There's courage in knowing who deserves you, and even more courage in walking away from those who don't. We live in a world where people often expect trust as a default, as if simply showing up in your life, carrying a title like friend, partner, or even family, automatically grants them access to the most sacred parts of who you are. But that's not how it works. Trust isn't a door that swings open just because someone knocks. It's not something you owe anyone. Trust is a slow build, brick by brick. It's formed in the small, consistent moments when someone shows up, when they listen without trying to fix you, when they keep your secrets, when they speak well of you in rooms you'll never enter. It's in the patterns, not the performances. People reveal whether they're trustworthy not by grand declarations, but by the way they handle your vulnerability. Do they hold it with care or use it as leverage? Do they honor your boundaries or treat them like barriers they need to bypass? When someone treats trust like a given, when they demand it, guilt trip you for withholding it, or act offended by your hesitation, that's not a sign they're safe. That's a warning, because real trust isn't coerced, it's not begged for, and it's definitely not manipulated out of you. Real trust is reciprocal. It's created in spaces where safety and consistency exist, where your presence is appreciated, not exploited, where your absence is respected, not punished, where you are loved, not just for who you are when you're easy to be around, but for who you are in your hardest moment. So no, trust is not a door you leave unlocked for everyone. It's a gate that opens slowly, carefully, and only to those who've shown they can be trusted with the view inside. You don't need to explain or justify protecting your peace. And you never, ever have to feel guilty for saying, I don't trust you, and you haven't earned it yet. Disrespect doesn't always walk in loud, rude, and obvious. And in fact, the most dangerous kind rarely does. It shows up smiling, polished, polite. It looks like charm, wit, even affection. It can wear the mask of humor, those jokes that make you the punchline, or generosity, the kind that expects something in return. Sometimes it hides behind tradition, culture, or just how we do things. But beneath the surface, it's control, it's condescension, it's manipulation wrapped in manners. Disrespect doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Subtle comments that make you second guess your worth. Backhanded compliments that feel more like tiny cuts. Being interrupted every time you try to speak. Eye rolls. Silence when you're vulnerable. Dismissiveness when you share something that matters to you. It's being asked to shrink so someone else can feel bigger. Being told you're too sensitive when you set a boundary. Being guilted into overgiving, over-explaining, over-performing. Just to keep the peace. And because it's so sneaky, it's easy to overlook. Easy to excuse. You tell yourself they're just having a bad day, that maybe you are overreacting. You give them the benefit of the doubt again and again, even as the ground beneath your self-worth starts to crack. But here's the truth. People who truly respect you won't make you doubt yourself. They won't mock your values or make you feel small for having needs. Real respect feels like ease, like freedom, like safety. So pay attention to the tone behind the words, the pattern behind the charm, the way you feel when you walk away from them, lighter or heavier. Because the longer you stay in disguised disrespect, the more it erodes your ability to trust yourself. And that's the greatest loss of all. Your instincts are not wrong. Your boundaries are not rude, and your voice deserves space, even if it shakes. You don't need to wait for disrespect to raise its voice. You are allowed to walk away the first time it disrespects your silence. If you really want to know who someone is, set a boundary with them. Say no. Speak your truth. Ask for space. Tell them what you need. Do something that prioritizes your well-being and watch what happens next. Because boundaries aren't just about what we're willing to tolerate, they're also a mirror. They show us with startling clarity how someone handles not getting their way. Do they respect it with grace? Or do they guilt you, shame you, or try to push past it? People who are secure, grounded, and emotionally mature will honor your boundary even if it inconveniences them. They may not love it, they may feel uncomfortable, but they will still respect it because they respect you. Your limits don't threaten them. Your autonomy doesn't offend them. But those who are used to control, entitlement, or access without accountability, they will not take your boundaries well. To them, your no feels like rejection. Your need for space feels like betrayal. Your self-respect feels like defiance. And that's when their true colors surface. They'll say you've changed, call you difficult, accuse you of being selfish or dramatic. They'll question your intentions, twist your words, and try to turn others against you, not because your boundary was wrong, but because it exposed something in them they didn't want to face. Setting a boundary doesn't create dysfunction, it reveals it. It shines a light on the parts of people they've worked hard to keep hidden, their attachment to power, their discomfort with your growth, their dependency on your silence. And while it can be painful to see people's reactions, it's also a gift. And once you know, you can choose differently. You deserve relationships where you don't have to trade your peace for connection, where your limits are honored. Your no is not the beginning of a war, but simply a complete sentence. So trust what the boundary reveals. You're not asking for too much, you're just finally asking the right question. Who are you when I don't abandon myself for you? Accountability is rare and revealing. There's a moment in every relationship, personal, professional, romantic, or otherwise, when someone messes up. They hurt you, they cross a line, they fall short of who they said they were. And that moment, it becomes a fork in the road. Not because of the mistake, but because of what they do after it. Do they take responsibility or do they deflect? Do they own their impact or do they only defend their intentions? Do they say, I'm sorry, or you're too sensitive? Because accountability, real accountability is rare. And when someone is willing to look in the mirror, take a breath and say, that was on me, I was wrong, and I want to make it right, it's not weakness, it's power. It's character, it's integrity made visible. But most people don't go there, not because they're incapable, but because it's uncomfortable. Because blame is easier than honesty. Because defensiveness feels safer than vulnerability. And because admitting fault requires a level of self-awareness many people spend their whole lives avoiding. Instead, they rewrite the story to make themselves the victim. They minimize what happened, or they shift the spotlight. Suddenly, you are the problem for bringing it up. Now you're attacking them, holding a grudge, or unable to let things go. That's not accountability, that's emotional manipulation. The truth is, people who respect you will care about how their actions affect you, even if it stings, even if it's awkward, even if they didn't mean to hurt you. Intentions matter, yes, but impact matters more. When someone can say, I didn't see it then, but I do now, and I understand how I hurt you, they are giving you something rare, repair. That is where trust is rebuilt. That is how relationships deepen. But when they refuse accountability, that's information. That's the relationship revealing its ceiling. That's you learning in real time that their comfort matters more to them than your pain. And that's when you get to choose what kind of relationship you want to be in, one that grows or one that gaslights. So don't ignore what accountability or the absence of it shows you. Anyone can say they care about you, but the people who truly do, they're the ones who show up when they cost harm. They don't disappear. They don't argue with your pain. They stand in it with you. And they say, let's make this right. One of the hardest truths you'll ever face is this. Not everyone you start with is meant to go with you. You will grow. You will evolve. You'll start choosing differently how you spend your time, how you speak to yourself, the energy you allow around you. You'll begin healing old wounds, breaking old patterns, stepping into the kind of peace you never knew you deserved. And when that happens, some people you love, people who've walked with you for years, won't know how to meet you there. It's not because you did something wrong. It's not because you became arrogant or cold or selfish, though some might say you did. It's because your growth threatens the version of you they were most comfortable with, who stayed small to keep the peace, who tolerated more than they should have, apologized for their feelings, and dimmed their light so no one else felt insecure. When you stop doing those things, it doesn't always feel like liberation to others. To some, it feels like loss. And not everyone is willing to face that discomfort. The discomfort of seeing you become someone they don't quite recognize anymore. So they resist your growth. Sometimes with silence, sometimes with sarcasm, sometimes by reminding you of who you used to be, like it's a leash. They may try to pull you back, not because they're bad people, but because your transformation reflects their stagnation. And when people aren't ready to look at themselves, they'll make your evolution the problem. But here's the truth. Growth is not betrayal. Choosing to become more whole, more honest, more grounded, that's not abandonment. That's alignment. And yes, it may cost you some relationships, but it will never cost you the ones truly meant for you. The people who love you as you grow will celebrate you. They'll evolve alongside you, even if it's messy. They'll give you room to expand without making you feel guilty for changing. So if you're in a season of growth and some people are falling away, let them. Love them from afar if you must, but let them go without chasing. You are not responsible for staying small just to keep others comfortable. Not everyone grows with you, and that's okay. Because the ones who do, they'll walk beside you, not behind you, and they'll meet the new you with open arms, not closed hearts. Self-trust is the foundation upon which everything else in your life is built. Without it, everything else wobbles. Your relationships, your decisions, your sense of purpose, they all crumble piece by piece when self-trust is lacking. Because here's the truth. If you don't trust yourself, you'll always second guess your choices. You'll question your worth. You'll doubt your intuition, your decisions, your ability to handle life's challenges. And when you're in that space, you become vulnerable to anyone who tells you that they know better. You become prey to manipulation, to guilt trips, to anyone who can make you feel like you don't have the right to make choices that serve you. But when you have self-trust, everything changes. Suddenly, you're rooted in something deep. You become clear about what feels right and what feels off. You stop waiting for permission, validation, or approval from others. You begin to trust your instincts, your emotions, and your thoughts with a kind of quiet certainty. Self-trust is not a luxury, it's a necessity. When you trust yourself, you become the author of your own story. You stop relying on external validation to tell you who you are or what you need. You listen to your own voice above all others, and you honor what it has to say, even if it's uncomfortable or doesn't make sense to anyone else. It's only when you trust yourself that you can navigate life with clarity. The world will throw all kinds of curveballs, but when you have the courage to believe that you will handle them, you begin to move through life differently, no longer paralyzed by fear or the need for external assurance. You become resilient. You know that even when things go wrong, you'll find your way back because you know you can rely on yourself. Self-trust also means acknowledging that mistakes are part of the process and being kind to yourself when they happen. It's not about being perfect or never doubting yourself. It's about knowing that you are capable of learning, growing, and adjusting when necessary. You don't have to get it right every time, but you do have to believe that you have the strength to course correct. The most powerful part of self-trust is that it enables boundaries to become clearer and easier to enforce. When you trust yourself, you're no longer afraid to say no. You stop over-explaining your decisions or feeling guilty for protecting your peace. You know that your needs are just as important as anyone else's, and you trust yourself to honor them without hesitation. And perhaps most importantly, when you trust yourself, you stop seeking others' approval to feel valid. You let go of the constant search for outside affirmation because you've already validated yourself from within. You know that you are worthy, that you are enough, just as you are, no matter what anyone else says or thinks. So if you're feeling disconnected, unsure, or overwhelmed, the place to start is simple. Look within. Rebuild that trust with yourself, piece by piece. Trust that you will know what's best for you. Trust that you will make the decisions and align with your values. Trust that even in the mess, you are worthy of your own love, respect, and care. When you cultivate self-trust, you unlock the power to create a life that is truly your own, one that doesn't rely on anyone else's approval to feel whole. And that, more than anything else, is the greatest gift you can give yourself. With all of these key points expanded, would you like to see the speech as a whole, or